Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Hopefully everyone's doing, again, amazing on these just spectacular nights in terms of Ramadan. We're getting close to the end, guys. So I thought I'll start putting some stuff together in terms of bringing all this stuff when you have to apply. And application is completely different than learning the rules. When someone asks you an application question, it's completely different than when they ask you to learn a rule. If you're in a lecture class, you'll see that you're just learning a lot of rules. But when you have to apply is when you actually become the doctor and you have to do it out in the field. So whenever we're going through stuff like this, I'm going to try to give you as much application as possible with everything that we've learned. We talked about self-esteem, self-confidence, being able to take on a challenge, understanding flow and how it works. We've talked about so much. Now, what I want to try to do is give you as much as I can in terms of application, where you now understand certain laws and regulations that you need to push yourself to another level. And in terms of this, there's no better application format than enjoining good and forbidding evil. Al-amru bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy al-munkar. Okay, so what I want you guys to understand is overall, we've been doing this for a reason. And now building these things and setting yourself up to another level is where you actually start applying the information and getting results through the information. So I have some of my clients one of my clients today, and he's from a brother from a Christian faith, and he was following these presentations in terms of Ramadan. And to me, it's incredible that he's number one, it's amazing that someone really can push themselves to understand this stuff. But he's gaining so much, he told me, from this kind of stuff. It's just incredible to me. It's an honor. It's so much, but the person is actually applying. They're not just doing things, they're applying. And it's incredible to me when you don't know where your message can land, you don't know who's watching. And at the end of the day, guys, just purify your intention and just be you. Like, at the end of the day, you know who you are on the inside. And when these things start coming about, and there's a situation where you have to enjoin good and forbid the evil, you're going to be tested, and God is going to show you, okay, who you really are. Do you need work, and you need to work on yourself? Or you say, alhamdulillah, I downloaded this principle and I used it. So on these levels, we're starting to move into that aspect where we're going to actually start applying. Now, tonight, please pay attention to this, because this presentation, I've given you 4 presentations. We went through al-bawh, disclosure. We went to al-intima, as having a sense of belonging. Then we went to al-taqdir, and having value, not being loved, being cared for. And then al-rasid al-amali, to have kind of an account of good deeds, where you've done so much and it's like you have a bank account of good deeds. And we said how all the last 4 presentations have been about how those are essential elements that are inside of you, and you need to fill them. What fills them? We said, al-intima li Allah azza wa jal, al-bawh li Allah azza wa jal, al-rasid al-amali li Allah azza wa jal, al-taqdir min Allah azza wa jal. We realize that Allah is the one who feeds these essential things. And the way we get to Allah in terms of feeding those things is prayer. That was the whole series. Again, that's a lot of application as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how tonight is going to kind of bring some of those together, and where you have to stand. And now you're put in a challenge and you're put in a situation. And Imam Ali alayhi salam is going to give us an understanding that's so powerful. And that understanding is this, that your emotions are the end result. Emotions are things you have to earn. you have to earn them. They're not just given to you, you have to earn them. And he's going to show us that. He's going to show us that having a set of emotions in your heart is it's a blessing. It's an understanding. When you can get your heart to actually cry, that's a blessing. When you can get your heart to actually feel compassion, that's a blessing. These kinds of things, you start understanding the emotional states. Now, I'm not telling you not misguided emotions, where emotions are lying to you and you think you're right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying true emotions, feeling the right emotion in the right situation, then making a decision based upon your logic, your emotion. And when those two connect, you have something that's very special that comes together and it crystallizes. And now you have a principle. And from there, you make a decision based on that principle in that situation. And now, wow, you get something really, really valuable. So tonight, really take notes on this. I've presented this before, but I'm going to take this to another level. And I'm going to show you how that works. And in terms of being able to set yourself up to that stage. Now, here's what I'm going to, before I start, so let's begin it the right way. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Tonight, guys, you can get this book. This is more of a business book, but it's incredible in terms of good to great. But there's actually, before that one, there's actually something called Built to Last by the same. They did like years and years of study in terms of major companies with these kinds of things. And they just give it to you again in a book. It's incredible. So if you can get that, that's if you're really interested in sales, in business, understanding these kinds of things, amazing book in terms of major companies that have been around for 30 years or more. And they did another book which is called Built to Last. If you can get those two series, you're going to understand these. When I first started, my mentor gave me these two books, and actually these are still his. And he forgave me, but I should have gave it back to him. But I'm saying that on the air right now, so I'm exposing myself, and I'm saying, but I know what kind of person he is, and he doesn't care. But it's at the end of the day, guys, these are incredible things. And I want to say these books because I want the ajr to go back to him. So, but he put me on these. That was my first couple books. He put me on these two books. So I would tell you, get that one. That's a really great book. All right, so let's move into this in terms of what we're going to do and how we're going to set this up. Now, overall, I'm going to give you the 4 levels. Okay, there's 4 levels to al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy an munkar. Imam Ali alayhi salam, in one hadith, he lays this out for us, and he gives us an understanding what the 4 levels are. And I want you to take a gauge of who you are. This will really give you a gauge. This will give you an understanding of when you're faced with a situation. Do I move forward? Do I step back? Am I more in bravery? Am I more towards cowardice? Who am I? Okay. Do I stand for what I believe in? Do I do these things? Now, let's move on that. 374 in Nahj al-Balagha, the short sayings. In Nahj al-Balagha, there's letters, sermons, and short sayings. In some versions, there's about 481 short sayings. And that's the one I would recommend that you get if you get that book. It's also Nahj al-Balagha is on alislam.org. Huge resource in terms of Islamic books. I recommend that. There's also Nahj al-Balagha, I think, .org, where there's a search in Nahj al-Balagha, where you can actually do a search and you put the word fear, and it'll bring anything within a letter, a short saying, and it'll bring it up. It's like got a refined search. It's a really, really nice website. So let's begin from here. It's 374 in the short sayings in the back. All right, the 4 levels of enjoining good and forbidding evil. Now, what is enjoining good and forbidding evil? Before I even start, enjoining good is actually to have your heart attach to goodness and to what Allah wants. Inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin. Okay, Allah loves the ones who what? do good. Okay, inna Allah la yuhibbul. There's a beautiful verse, and I'm trying to remember the prerequisite to that verse. But ultimately, it's really at the end of the day about understanding what Allah wants and loves. I love what Allah despises and He doesn't want. Okay, I push away from me. That is the engagement of the heart. So my heart repels the things that Allah doesn't want, and it loves and it's attached to the things that Allah wants. Okay, so on that level, that should give you an understanding. Then you can get to a point where you can take yourself to many different levels. Now, I want you to see what the differences are. Now, there's 4 languages of communication, and we talked about that, and I gave that presentation before. Number 1, verbal, behavioral, emotional, and dress. I'm going to talk about 3 languages today. Okay, verbal, behavioral, and emotional. And you're going to see this is the epitome of what? Al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy al munkar. And you're going to see how important these 3 languages are. Verbal, which is you talking. Behavioral, which is you doing with your hands. Okay, and emotional, which is you feeling something. So whenever you see a sin, what happens to you? Do you do what Imam Ali alayhi salam says? Or don't you? Or have you gotten to a point where you're completely desensitized? Now, before I start, I would just want to say this. Guys, in our blessed country, it's a beautiful country. I love this country. Okay, it's an amazing country. It gives us so much blessing, and it has so many things that it has provided for us. It's unbelievable. Okay, the blessings of this country are unbelievable, but we also have some problems in our country. Okay, there's a psychological war at stake in terms of your mind. At the end of the day, if you don't protect yourself from certain things coming into your mind, and from advertising, marketing, all these kinds of things, marketers are always telling you what they want you to do. Why don't you take some control and then you tell yourself what you want? You search inside and say, you know what? I want that. I don't want that. That's a lot of self-discovery. Everyone is telling you all the time, do this and don't do this. Do this and do that, okay? Always the world is suggesting to you, don't do this and don't do that, but do this and do that. Even the shaitan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس. So again, suggestion. Even the shaitan is suggesting. That suggestion, okay, at the end of the day, everyone is doing it to you. Why don't you suggest some things that you want for your own self? Build your character so you can do that on your own. And you don't need people's suggestions. You know what is right. You know what is true. Now, I was having a conversation with someone just a couple minutes ago, and the person is amazing in terms of their understanding. But they heard something, and once they heard it, they're like, okay, I see it. And this is what I want. But the decisiveness and the way they were speaking is incredible, because the heart is talking. It's just talking. When you can get to that point of conviction, it's incredible. Now, I'm going to take you through this. Let's begin. Level 1. All right. So when we are talking about this kind of stuff, what is the number 1 level within Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy al Munkar? So when you're a person that's moving towards this, here we go. What's level 1 in terms of this? Here's the hadith. Imam Ali alayhi salam begins the hadith, and he says, among them. So these are the people. This is talking about all of us, okay? And amongst us, amongst them, among them, okay, there's going to be different groups. He's going to explain this to us, okay? Among them is he who rejects evil with his or her, okay? He's speaking plurality, okay? In terms of that kind of subject. So there are some people who reject evil. What? How? Watch this. Number 1, with their what? Hands. So they actually do something about it. They actually, when they see something being done, they actually go out and physically stop it. Let's say someone is oppressing someone. They actually get engaged and they do what? They stop the person. That's engagement. When that person does that, that's the behavioral language. The person's not saying anything. They're just behaving. So let's say someone attacks someone you really care for. You jump in and you take on that person, and now you push that person away. You're enjoining good and forbidding evil. The evil that that person is causing and oppressing on that other person, you're stopping it. So you're holding up goodness. Inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin, as we said. Now, so amongst them, he's given us the understanding, who reject evil. So there's an evil act outside in the world, and you reject it with your hand. That's number one. Number two, with their tongue. So they actually speak about it. They do it with their hand. So they actually physically go out and they stop the act. Then they speak against it. So they're taking a position and they're speaking against it. When you can do that, now the second language is engaged. And I'm going to give you an understanding with all three languages. There's 4 languages, but I'm going to give you all 3 languages and when they line up and what happens with sincerity. That is incredible. Now, behaviorally, they actually do something with their hand. Verbally, they actually say something against it. Third level, emotionally, in their heart, they despise the act. They're against it. This is wrong emotionally. And they actually say something and they actually do something. Okay? Now, what is Imam Ali alayhi salam? He says hand, tongue, and heart. He says, if a person does this, he says this. Listen to this right here. He has attained all the traits of what? What's this word? Goodness. You have touched goodness. When you can feel the emotion in your heart, and now you have the right emotional code, meaning this act is wrong and I despise it. I actually have a feeling that I'm despising this act. I don't like it. It's not something good. I'm disgusted by it. Okay? Now, I actually say something and I do something about it. That is the ultimate level of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy an-munkar. But watch how Imam Ali continues, and he takes us higher and higher and higher. First, we go lower. Then he takes us what? Higher. And he gives you what the weight is of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy an-munkar. So if you think doing all your a'mal is something, wait till he gives you what this is in terms of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy an-munkar. So now, if you are a person who, when you see an evil act, you feel it in your heart, you actually what? Say something with your tongue and you do something with your hand. If you are a person, you have grabbed the traits of what? Goodness. Now let's take it further. There's level 2. Level 2. And he says, and amongst them is he who rejects it with what? Watch this now. With his tongue. Person's tongue. He says now the verbal, they'll say something. Okay? They'll say something. They'll see the act, and he's giving you situation by situation. So the first person, they actually do something right away physically with their hand. They stop it. Okay? Watch the starting points of each level. Okay? The other person starts with what? Their hand. They say something with their tongue, and they end up to the heart. Watch this. Imam Ali starts here. The second group are the people who do what? They start with their tongue. Watch this. Watch what happens. So, and amongst them who rejects it, rejects what? Evil. They reject an evil act. They start with their tongue. Number 2, they what? They feel it in their heart. That's what happens. So it's in the heart. Emotionally, I feel it. I despise the act. Emotionally, I feel disgusted about the act. Watch this. But not with their hand. They don't do anything about it. So on this level, what happens? First language, which is verbal here. Okay, so let's go back here real quick. First language is verbal, is what? Is saying, yes, go against it. Second language, which is emotional. Okay, I feel it. Okay, says what? Yes, go against it. Third language, hold on, I don't know. Okay, so now you have contradictions within the languages. So the first language is saying yes. The second language is saying yes. The third language is saying So you have two languages on one side, you have one language on the other. They don't do anything behaviorally. So now let's take it further. What is level 3? There's another group now Imam Ali talks about. Watch this. Okay, and amongst them who rejects it with what? Watch this. Again, watch the beginning of each step and each level. And he says what? He starts now with the heart. The first group began with the hand, the tongue, and the heart. The second group, he began with the tongue and what? And the heart. The third group now, he begins with the heart. And he says, and amongst them who rejects it with the heart. Now, please pay attention to this. Listen and how he finishes each level. Listen to that. So I want to go back and show you. How did he finish the first level? He finished it with what? Goodness. You grabbed all the traits of goodness. Now, the second level, how did he finish that one? He says, not his hand. So he excluded one. Now, I want you to see how he finishes the third level. Okay? We said now he does it with his heart. Watch this though. But not with his hand and his tongue. So now one language is saying, man, I feel bad. I feel disgusted by this act, but I'm not going to say anything. And I'm not going to what? Do anything about it. And I want you to see the next levels. Okay, this is level 3, by the way. It should say level 3, not level 2. Okay, but on this level, you know what? That's going to bother me. Hold on. All right, there we go. So we fixed it. Now from here, so on this level, this is what he says. I want you to understand this. Look at the way he finishes this. When he does this properly, and you got one language now that's saying one thing, and I despise that emotionally here, I despise the act, okay, but verbally and behaviorally, I'm not saying anything. So one language is saying one thing now, two languages inside of you is saying something different. This is your reality, okay? And I want you to see what was going to happen eventually down the line. Why do people start doing this? Because they're afraid. There's fear, okay? To actually say something against someone or to stand up against something, okay? There's a lot of fear. I want to show you, by the way, what's going to happen at the end and how Imam Ali alayhi salam, he gives us the recommendations and why we shouldn't be afraid. And he tells us why. Okay, so now listen to the way he finishes this one. And he says, listen, whoever has forsaken, so the person who does not do it with his hand, okay, I'm sorry, with his hand and his tongue, okay, now this person has forsaken the two greater of the three traits that laid hold of one and laid hold of one. So he's only grabbed onto one of them, but he's left the greater two. So he's saying these are the actual greater two. Doing something about it physically on a behavioral level, verbally saying something about it, okay, is better than just feeling it. You need that. You need that feeling because this causes drive. But your drive is not strong enough for this drive here in your heart is not strong enough for you to say something, okay? Or it's not strong enough for you to do something. So that means in here, there's some things you need to work on in terms of your conviction. And you're going to see how hard it becomes to have these kinds of convictions. Now, he says here, he's grabbed on what? He's forsaken the greater two. So these, he's saying, are better than what? Just feeling it in your heart. He's forsaken the greater two and laid hold of just one. That's what's happening. Now, let's take it to the last level within these four. Now, watch this, guys. Please pay attention to this, because this is, again, this says number two. Let me change this real quick. Now, watch this. I already given it to you, but it's okay. All right. So now, this level, okay, and amongst them is who fails to reject it, fails to reject it. Listen now to what he's saying. Now, this person, emotionally, nothing. I don't feel anything is wrong. And on top of that, I actually think it's right. This person now is traversing. They're doing al-amr bil-munkar wal-nahy al-ma'ruf. Now they're actually enjoining an evil, and they're actually what? Forbidding good, because they flipped. The emotional code has flipped. And the last thing is to die is your heart. And when you become desensitized, so what happens to us, guys, in terms of when I'm saying there's a psychological war, there's a psychological war where it's with temptation. Look at the Super Bowl ads that we have here. They're all about temptation, all about drinking, sexuality, every other aspect. They're being fed to us in terms of these kinds of things. It's to desensitize your emotion. And I told you, emotions are earned, they also can be taken away. Let's say you're strong in one thing, but slowly you're eroding that emotional code, and you no longer stand for something, because here is where the belief stands. And it all starts with your emotions. I should pray. I didn't pray. So I need to make sure I do this right. I didn't do that. Even today, guys, I had a hard time. There was something that happened, okay? But I should have scheduled myself better. We make these mistakes. It's okay. But at the end of the day, work on yourself. Work on yourself. Take yourself to the next stage. But don't be afraid to tell yourself, listen, I didn't do this right. Today, I didn't do this right. I need to fix this. And I need to make sure that I take it to the next level. But be brutally honest with yourself as a person. You're going to make mistakes. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a hadith, it says, Allah, if there aren't amongst you people who sin, that Allah will actually create people who will sin, ask for forgiveness, and go back to sinning. There's a hadith about that. So it's part of the process, but again, it's about perfecting yourself. And you every day is getting a new level where you take yourself to the next stage. So amongst these people, now watch this, who's desensitized his or her heart, they no longer feel, when they see evil now, guess what happens? They no longer feel like there's something wrong. Let's say you see someone killing someone. You don't feel bad. You don't feel anything in terms of being repulsed by the act. Any type of act, any type of sin, you're desensitized now. Your emotion, your heart is no longer there. That is a person who's completely desensitized their heart. And I want you to look around us now, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam comes to this level, and he says to one of his companions, he says, there will come right now, in terms of the Prophet's time, he says, we are in the time of where you can, the good is looked at as good, and whatever is bad is looked at as bad. So it's the sight and the perspective of people is right. It's rightly calibrated. Now, he said there's going to be a time after us, which is after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there will come a time where pretty much goodness and falsehood will be equal, where not one will outweigh the other. But then he says there's a time that will come that the truth will be looked at as falsehood, and falsehood will be looked at as the truth. Guys, we're in this time. And Imam Ali has given us the process of how this is happening. When you become emotionally desensitized to evil, it means you've been reprogrammed up here. And that's why I tell you there's a psychological war. You being fed constant temptation where it doesn't feel like it's wrong. It's okay to Science has come out with, and I'm not against science. I love science. Science is my thing. But it's to justify certain things and certain behaviors that are just completely against morality as a whole. Okay. So when we're saying this stuff, you got to be very careful. And we're not judging anyone. We're not saying anything. At the end of the day, people can do what they want. I'm not saying this stuff to try to save anyone, guys. I'm here saving myself. Trust me. And I don't look at anyone in terms of, I say, when you commit sin, you just sin differently than I do. So I'm not better than you and you're not better than me. We just sin differently. Okay. It doesn't matter your sin, but it's just, how do we take ourselves to the next level? How do I take myself to the next level? Okay. That's what we're talking about, is how we can feed each other these kinds of things and make sure that we're on the right side of the fence at the end. When we are raised back up, that's what we want. We want to be on the right side of the fence. Now, number one, emotionally, he lets it go. His heart is no longer there. Verbally, he doesn't say anything. And what? On a behavioral level, there's nothing there. Now watch this. What does Imam Ali say about this person? They don't feel against the sin. They don't say against the sin. They don't do against the sin. Listen to what he says. When you desensitize your heart, ختم الله على قلوبهم وعلى سمعهم وعلى أبصارهم غشاوة. Their hearts are sealed. صم بكم عمي فهم لا يرجعون. Deaf, dumb, and blind, and they will never return. So on that level, you start understanding the danger when the heart gets sealed. And now you keep committing the sin over and over, and there's nothing to hold you back from the sin. You scream at your parents, it doesn't matter. There's nothing to hold you back. You walk towards temptation, from alcohol to drugs to anything, there's nothing to hold you back. Your heart is desensitized. You don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's a norm now. Okay. Illegitimate, sexual partners. Okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you. There's nothing to hold you back. There's nothing to hold your heart. And there's no fear that you have. What does Imam Ali say about a person who has reached this stage? And there are people amongst us, guys, who are walking around like this. He says this person is a dead man walking. They're already dead on the inside. They're done. And now, when they're walking around, when the heart dies, everything dies. That's it. It's that emotional code that you need in your heart to be able to stand up against something and say, no, I don't believe in that, or you shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't do that. Okay? So you need to understand how that is. Now, last thing, let's move forward. Guys, please pay attention to these stages. It's incredible, okay? The importance. Now, I want to really get you to understand the importance of what? Enjoining good and forbidding evil. The importance of it. Now, we all do a'mal, right? So we had Laylatul Qadr, you go to Hajj, you go to Ziyarah, all these things. I want you to see what Imam Ali alayhi salam says about this. So when your heart dies, everything dies, because that power that you have inside of you is no longer going to stop you. Whenever you enjoin good and forbid evil, it means you're standing for something. There's a principle that you're following. Okay? And you're going to create enemies just like you're going to create friends. And I will tell you this, if you don't know how to create enemies, then you don't know how to create friends. Because the second you start standing up for something, guess what? People are going to go against you automatically. And you're going to earn enemies just like you earn friends. That's how it works. But if you don't stand up for something, there's no way now you can be tolerant, people love you, it's an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, the harder you believe in something, the harder the other people are going to go against you. Now, the importance of what? The importance of this is so crucial, guys, because you're going to see the power and you're going to see the weight in terms of a deed, a good deed, in terms of enjoining good and forbidding evil. Watch this. Imam Ali alayhi salam says importance. So how important is enjoining good? Okay, is joining good and forbidding evil. Watch this. Compared to all other deeds, please pay attention. Compared to all other deeds, okay, all good deeds, along with jihad, for God's sake, is but a drop of spittle, okay, in the vast ocean compared to enjoining good and forbidding evil. I'm going to repeat that, okay? All good deeds, along with jihad, for God's sake, is but a spittle in the ocean, in the vast ocean, compared to enjoining good and forbidding evil. This is Imam Ali. Go to Nahj al-Balagha 374 in the back. You can find this, okay? All good deeds, he says all. Everything you've done, including jihad. So if you go out and you fight for Allah's sake, okay, even on top of that, look how valuable this is. Why? Because this is a social construct. It's social science. It repairs the community. The community stands up against something and says, no, we don't accept that. It's a social obligation. There's actually five contingencies, meaning 5 things that need to happen for you to be able to apply this. So you need to have those rules, and maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll maybe do another presentation on that, what the 5 rules are. And one of the first rule is for you guys to be able to have a cause on a situation, that you can cause a change in the situation. If you feel like you can't cause change, then it's not obligatory on you. But if those 5 things exist, then it becomes obligatory. You have to do it. So now, guys, I just want you to see the importance. This is what Imam Ali alayhi salam tells us first. So number 1, the importance. Number 2, fear. Now, whenever we're actually about to say something, imagine your boss, all right, comes up to you and they're like, listen, you stole this, but I'm going to forgive you. Okay, I'm going to let you go, but I know you did it. Now, you're afraid to lose your job. So you just sit there and you're just like, okay, you know what? I did it, but you didn't really do it. Or you see someone who actually did it, and now another person is getting fired. And you just sit there because you don't want to get involved. Or there's something see, what you're doing now is you're enjoining an evil because you see the evil act and you're accepting it. Now, I'm telling you, you have to be wise in these kinds of things. You have to present yourself wisely. I'm not saying that you just do this irrationally and you just like start telling on people all the time. That's not what I'm saying. You have to be wise when to do stuff like that. Wisdom is knowing when to step forward and when to pull back. That's what wisdom. Wisdom is placing knowledge in its right place. Wisdom is applying knowledge through it. The truth needs to be applied through wisdom. So it's knowing when to actually say something and when to actually hold your words, okay? It's beautiful when someone can do that and they know when to do it. And they actually create beautiful relationships when they can do that. They know what to say and how to say it and when to say it, or what kind of pressure to put on. It's beautifully done. When someone is like that, they're an artist in terms of communication. And it's so beautiful when it's done right. You have beautiful mannerism. Just like you see a beautiful face, someone's manners can be beautiful. Now, fear. Fearing consequences. This is why we stay away from what? Enjoining good and forbidding evil. Because we're afraid that something's going to happen to us. Listen to what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. Because we're afraid, right? When we get scared to say or do something about the issue. Remember your hands? Okay, let's say you feel it now. Your hands don't do anything and your tongue doesn't do anything. Why? It's because of fear. And I told you that earlier. So now, here's what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. Listen to this. He says in his concerning fear, watch, relying on God and in enjoining good and forbidding evil does not bring, listen, death near, nor does it decrease sustenance. So it doesn't, whenever you feel like you're fearing for your life, okay, if I say something against this person, or if I say, let's say someone commits an act, a murder, and you have to be a witness, Okay, now you fear for your life, for what's going on, but you're enjoining good and forbidding evil, realizing that what Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who controls stuff like that. Again, through wisdom, you understand how to be wise. That's what we're assuming here. Now, from here, he says it doesn't bring death closer, nor does it decrease your sustenance. So in 273 in Nahj al-Balagha, read the hadith about sustenance. 273, the version of that book that says what? The version that has 481 short sayings in the back, that has that one. 273, read that one about sustenance. Okay? About what Imam Ali alayhi salam says about sustenance. But here, he's telling you, so don't be afraid. If you need to enjoy good and forbid evil, and you're afraid of consequences, he's saying it's not going to decrease your sustenance, meaning you're not going to lose money, and it's not going to bring about death. It's not even like your life is not going to be in danger, depending obviously on the situation. So really think about these things, guys, in terms of what Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying. Let's take it even further. Watch this. This is incredible. Because you're going to see Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, the fourth Imam, and Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And I tell you, please, guys, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. If you can go through that for Imam Sajjad every day, just listen to it. There's a lot of recitations, Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq. Listen to it. It's such a beautiful dua. It will change you. Listen to it for about 6 months in a row. And I swear to you, it will change your akhlaq. It will change you as a person. Watch what Imam Ali alayhi salam says in terms of these kinds of things. Now, the last thing, you're going to watch Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, which is, let's say he represents the male side. Then you're going to watch Zainab alayhi salam, which she's going to represent the female side. You're going to get two pillars of dominance, of strength, of power, resiliency, lack of fear, strength that can shake and break a mountain. It will split a person in half just by verbiage and tongue and being able to stand and do this properly. Look at what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. The father is saying the hadith, the daughter is implementing the hadith. That is remarkable in terms of how you bring up children, how you set the next generation up and you give them that strength where you say the hadith and you implement the hadith, then your daughter comes and she implements the hadith. And your nephew comes, Zainab alayhi salam, in terms of that, she comes and she implements it. Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam comes and he implements it. That's incredible. That's how you set up generations. Now watch what he says. He says the best application of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa-nahy al-munkar. What is the best form of enjoining good and forbidding evil? Now we said that enjoining good and forbidding evil is like a spittle in the vast ocean compared to all other deeds. So all other deeds are like a spit in the ocean compared to what? This. Now, what is the best form? The best form of this. Now, I want you to think about this situation. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was just martyred. And you're taken into the court of Yazid. Yazid is a tyrant. He can take your head off at any second. Imam Hussein alayhi salam's head is brought out. Yazid is poking around the lips of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And you're looking at that. Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam is looking at that. Zainab is looking at that. Think about the situation, just being guided into the quarters of Yazid. How would you feel? How would you come to that situation? How would you even know what to do in that situation? but let alone dominate the situation. What kind of heart do you have to have? What kind of faith do you have to have that pushes away fear? Faith versus fear. Who are you? That's the challenge. Think of Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Ali Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, Imam Sajjad, and Zainab walking into the quarters. Think of the challenge that was going to befall them, facing a tyrant like that. And now, what did they do? Zain al-Abidin and Zainab in the court of Yazid. This is what the father says, and this is how what they implement. However, better than all that is a word of justice spoken before a tyrant. Better than everything we just talked about. So think about all the good deeds, everything. That challenge and that emotion that you have to have in your chest, your intention has got to be like a rock. It's got to be made of steel to be able to do that. And not to have fear in your heart. You have to have complete faith in Allah. You have to have that dominance that nothing can shake your heart. And if you want my life, take it. But you don't own it. Allah owns it. And what? She says to Yazid, Wallahi la tamha dhikruna. You will never erase our what? Remembrance. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, millions and millions of people visit him every year. Her prophecy is true. But she stood up. And Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam describes Allah, then describes the Prophet, then describes Imam Ali in his speech. He says, these are my forefathers. Who are you? And he cuts him down in every which way. This is a true teacher. Imam Ali alayhi salam, like I told you, is a scientist. Brothers and sisters, don't lose your heart. The second you lose your heart, you've lost your soul. There's nothing that you can do. And the way you lose your heart is through temptation. And temptation right now is all around us. It's everywhere. This thing, you can have temptation in seconds. Whatever you want, you can flip a few buttons and it's right in front of you. It's right there. Don't do that to yourself. Win this psychological war. Protect yourself and enjoin in good and forbid evil and not the other way around. Don't desensitize your heart and earn the right emotions where with whatever Allah loves, you love. And what Allah despises, you despise and you push away. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.